Let's talk about tone. If you're a musician, you know, and even if you're not a musician, you probably know this as well, that the tone of an instrument is affected, a string instrument is affected by how tight or loose that string is. So you have a guitar or a violin and you tune that by tightening or loosening that string, and it affects the tone of that string. Well, our nervous system, specifically our spinal cord, is very similar. It's kind of interesting. So you have your spine. Of course, we know from the front our spine should be straight up and down. From the side, we're supposed to have those three different curves in our spine. And through the middle of that spine runs your spinal cord, which is like a rope. It's like a bundle of nerves, kind of like a rope. And that rope, if you will, that spinal cord, is attached at the very top of your spine to your base of your skull in what's called C2, the second vertebra down. So it's attached at the inside, just like the top of a guitar. It's the strings attached. And then at the bottom it's attached, the very base of your spine is attached. Otherwise, it's free floating, just like a guitar string, okay? So it has an inherent tone to be able to vibrate and be able to communicate. But if we do things that we twist and move and get our spine out of alignment, we lose the cervical curve in our neck, it stretches that spinal cord. Now, our spinal cord, other than its normal tone, inherently will stretch 10%. Okay? Just if I grab your finger and I pulled on it, I could pull a little bit and it could stretch a little bit before it's going to get painful. But after I get beyond a certain amount, if I pull on your finger really hard, it's going to damage the joints or the tissues. And it's the same thing with our spinal cord. So our spinal cord can inherently bend 10%. Okay, 10% stretch. And they say, with example, we have a military spine, we lose the curve in our neck, that puts a stretch of 10% on our spinal cord. So it can handle that, but then it can't handle any other type of movements or abnormal curves. If we get what's called a reverse curve, if our spine in the neck, where it's supposed to bend curve backwards, but actually curves the wrong way, it will inherently stretch 17%, right? So just like if you have a tug of war, you have two people pulling on a string, what happens in the middle, that string gets really tight and it gets compressed. Now again, this is your lifeline. Your spinal cord is all the communication from your brain to all the rest of your body for regulation, for control, for adaptation. It's your health. So when we get that stretch on the spinal cord, it moves us into a stressed or sympathetic dominant state. So just like if I pulled on your finger and I pulled really hard, what's going to happen? You're going to tense up, you're going to become in pain. It's the same thing that happens with our spinal cord. This, by the way, is one of the things that creates scoliosis. We get this stretch and your body wants to move away from that pressure, so it'll create a curvature in the spine to try to free up stress on the spinal cord. So it's an adaptive measure, right? So what happens if you're in a constantly stressed state? If I'm just like, you're constantly in pain and you're constantly stressed about your life, your body's not going to work as well, right? It's designed, that fight or flight response is designed for a very short time. If you're being chased by a bear or if you've got an emergency fight or flight situation, it's great for that very short term, but we're not designed to spend that in a long-term state. So if what happens, if we spend a long time in that stressed state, our stress hormones go up, and over time it stresses our immune system, it stresses our digestive system, so things might start to show up like immune system, autoimmune type of conditions, acid reflux, multiple sclerosis, heart disease, all these things that develop over that stress over time. The problem is then a lot of times these people go and get treated. They'll take a medication or some type of a treatment to treat that condition or symptom, but the condition or symptom is not the problem. It's the process that led to it, right? I'm not saying that they shouldn't, seek any type of medical care, but the bottom line is they got to get that stress off the spinal cord nervous system, which again, the best thing is obviously chiropractic care. That's what we're designed to do, is get the pressure off the spinal cord and the nerves. And again, if you've been in this situation for a year, 5 years, or 10 years, it's a process, not an event. It's going to take some time to get the pressure off the nerve. So if you know somebody like that, if you've got a friend or family member that's got these mysterious diseases that just popped up out of nowhere, please get them in and get their spine checked right away.